10 years. 10 f***ing years. 10 f***ing years of this brown teddy bear. I suppose I have to talk about it, don't I? Okay. On August 8th, 2014, an indie horror game called Five Nights at Freddy's was released. It was a last resort made by Scott Cawthon, a Christian man who had worked on many failed games prior to that. It didn't gain much attention until a mere 4 days after its release, on August 12th, when history was changed forever.
Hello everybody, my name is Markiplier and welcome to Five Nights at Freddy's, an indie horror game that you guys suggested.
The internet went nuts. And for Freddy and his friends, it's clear to see why. With such a recognizable cast as well as mysteries galore, it's no wonder that the game would get as popular as it did. Scott Cawthon saw this as an opportunity, and 10 years, 10 mainline games, 3 spin-offs, 5 troll games, over 50 f***ing books, Scott-endorsed fan games, and a film, with another one on the way, later, and here we are today, 10 years after that singular game. Along with its mysteries, its mysterious cast, everything was up in the air, and indie horror had found itself a new legacy. Five Nights at Freddy's created a legacy unseen by any other for a long time afterward. And I want to talk about it for this once-in-a-lifetime occasion. To understand the prelude to all of this, you have to understand the creator himself. So, we're taking a short prologue, per se, in talking about Scott Cawthon. Scott Braden Cawthon was an American man born on June 4th, 1978. He had a passion for game development, as well as the fact that he was a Christian. This becomes important later. With this passion for game development and wanting to spread his faith, Scott would make Christian adventure games, such as Pilgrim's Progress, a game where a man named Christian, funnily enough, is trying to get his sins cleansed, and The Desolate Hope, where a coffee pot, simply named Coffee in FNaF World, lives in a dystopian future. However, all of these ideas failed. So, Scott tried to make a game called Chipper & Sons Lumber Co. Much like all of those ideas, Chipper's unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, failed as well. And then, we got a review that changed everything forever.
Obviously, I have access to the trailer still, and it's too horrifying not to show. It's just all over the fucking place, and that thing looks like it's gonna kill your children. Ah! I don't know if you saw the mushroom, but that was creepy uncle territory. Oh, look at it! Look at all of it! What world is this? Ghastly faces twisted in a grimacing mockery of joy. I imagine the phrase, "kill me," is stated over and over again in the world of Chipper & Sons.
Scott had begun to mentally break down at this point, even going as far as to question his faith. However, eventually, Scott realized something. He could use these reviews to his advantage. And one review stuck to his mind. Jim Sterling's.
I imagine the phrase, "kill me," is stated over and over again in the world of Chipper & Sons.
Scott had found his inspiration. Scott found what he had been looking for. 9 months after the release of Chipper & Sons, Five Nights at Freddy's was released to the now-defunct Dishura on August 8th, followed shortly after by the Steam release 10 days later, on August 18th. For its first few days, it went fairly unnoticed. That is, until a man played it and uploaded it to YouTube just a few days later. And that man's name was Yamimash. That's right, not Markiplier, but Yamimash. On August 10th, 2014, just 2 days after FNaF's release, Yamimash posted a video simply titled Five Nights at Freddy's, where he played through night 1 of the game.
Hey! How are you feeling? Oh, that's great, yeah! Oh, it's nice to see you too! Oh, I'm out of power. Oh! to meet you!
Surprisingly, a fair bunch of fans don't realize that Yummy Mash was actually the first one to bring FNaF to light for many people, including a man just 2 days later.
Hello everybody, my name is Markiplier and welcome to Five Nights at Freddy's, an indie horror game that you guys suggested en masse, and I saw that Yummy Mash played it and he said it was really good. So I'm very eager to see what is up, and that is a terrifying animatronic bear, family pizzeria looking for a security guard to work the night shift.
On August 12th, Markiplier released his famous video, and as I said before, the internet went f***ing nuts. This game blew up. Five Nights at Freddy's had officially been brought to public attention, and you can tell if you look at the sheer spike in view count on Mark's video compared to Yummy Mash's in the present day. The fandom was in an uproar, and it seemed like it couldn't get any better, until a few weeks later, that is. On August 30th, 2014, 22 days after FNaF 1's release, The Living Tombstone released their single, Five Nights at Freddy's, based on the game. With this release, this is where FNaF truly got its uproots, and the fandom itself began to flourish. Thus, we can finally get into the main meat of the video. Hi, post-editing Alex here, so a bit of an update, Yummy Mash was actually not the first. That title actually goes to Ben the Scoopist, who uploaded his gameplay video on July 26, 2014, and was even less known than Yummy Mash's.
Hello everyone, Scoops here. Brand new series. This is Five Nights at Freddy's by Scott Cawthon. You may remember Scott Cawthon being the guy who created The Desolate Hope, one of my first Let's Plays. That game had probably one of the craziest craziest art styles and one of the craziest kind of settings I've ever played, so really excited to play this. He actually came out and gave it to me, which is so cool. It's actually on Steam Greenlight. I'll throw all the links up to his website, to the Steam Greenlight. But yeah, I'm just gonna let this game speak for itself. I played one round of it, I died, but it's probably one of the most terrifying things I've played in a long time.
Luckily, I learned this while editing this very segment. Sorry about that. Back to the video, and please go watch Ben the Scoopist gameplay. It deserves way more views than it has currently for being the first ever. This will be the main meat of the video. The fandom, as it grew, began to spawn a collective and creative amount of individuals. We are going to go over most, if not all of those categories here. One of the most well-known of the bunch, I'm going to assume, is the musicians. Alongside The Living Tombstone's Five Nights at Freddy's, many other songs began to release during this time, especially when the sequels started to become prevalent as well. A good example of these were definitely The Living Tombstone's other FNaF songs, namely It's Been So Long, the song he made for FNaF 2, and probably his most popular FNaF song aside from the original. Alongside It's Been So Long, he also made other FNaF songs. All of these were pretty popular too for the time. These songs were so well known, in fact, that people had concocted theories that Scott and The Living Tombstone are in cahoots and that his songs were canon, which sort of created a red herring for fans back in the day. Anyway, The Living Tombstone song was not only acknowledged and accepted by Scott, but it was also used for the end credits of the movie. And alongside The Living Tombstone songs, other artists had begun to actually rise too. Some notable examples are included here.
No, it just isn't fair. The chicken and the bear. Even the fox didn't go through what I had to bear.
Shouldn't have come here to this house of fear. Break those doors, hold steady. As the clock ticks on you, pray to reach on. Can you
songs and many, many more were hits within the community, and have actually had a residual impact on FNaF and, dare I say, nerdcore music in general today. But while that craze was going on, another set of creators were rising. Fan game creators. You could not deny this one. The concept of creating FNaF fan games got so popular it even has its own Game Jolt category, added all the way back in 2015. You could simply click that category, and you'd be hit with most likely decades worth of FNaF fan content to pick from, all with varying quality. Some of these fan games you could find go as follows: remakes of the original games like Five Nights at Freddy's Deluxe or Five Nights at Freddy's in Real Time, silly joke games that got fairly popular actually, such as Day Shift at Freddy's, a game where you worked at a parodied version of Freddy's Pizzeria with a humorous cast, or Five Nights at Fuckboys, a game where Freddy tries to gather his friends for a night of debauchery. Yeah. And original games, ones that got very popular, namely Five Nights at Candy's by Emil Mako, Pop Goes by King Carter, and The Joy of Creation by Nixon. A lot of you probably know why I'm singling these out. On August 20th, 2020, Scott Cawthon made a Reddit post regarding a new project he'd been working on with these developers titled the Fazbear Fanverse Initiative, where Scott would fund these creators and allow them to become a part of the FNaF franchise and sell their games on platforms like Steam. It was, and still is, a very generous move on Scott's part. As of now, Pop Goes Arcade is available on the Steam store and can be purchased now. Now that fan games are covered, I wanted to brief on another pretty creative group: artists, writers, and animators. Creative art, like in the name, is one of the most creative things you can do, and the fandom is proof of that, even with existing material. Five Nights at Freddy's has had plenty of comics, fan art, and fan fictions, including, admittedly, one that I wrote. Anyways, there are many talented artists within the community, especially on Twitter, Reddit, and DeviantArt. On the other side of that are animators. Animators have been in the FNaF scene ever since the very beginning. Earlier animations helped shape the community to the way they are today. They matter, in fact, everyone here does, especially the group I'm going to talk about next. The theorists of the community have been around for like ever now, ever since that first episode of Game Theory.
Pass. But then when I asked you about it, you showed overwhelming support for an episode on the game on Twitter, so I began to dig a little deeper and deeper, and what I found was some of the most interesting storytelling, most intriguing mysteries, and most disturbing events I'd read about in a long time. Now, if you were just to play the game straight through 5 days, the story would actually come across as pretty superficial. You're the new night guard watching the security cameras at a Chuck E. Cheese-style restaurant called Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. 4 animatronics roam the halls at night because the owners don't want their servos to lock up. Bad news is, you can't let them near you, or else they'll kill you on the spot because you look like a naked endoskeleton. Ow, ow! Show them those circuits! Apparently, one of them bit someone back in 87, presumably 1987. And the past guard leaves you recorded phone messages to act as your tutorial, that is, as much as he could record before he got himself killed. And that's it! Stay 5 nights, collect your paycheck, done, game over, play something new. But playing it that way is doing the game a huge disservice, because that's not even scratching the surface. If you're really observant, you start to unravel the layers of unsolved mysteries around this place. You find that there's a 5th animatronic, that posters on the wall will change randomly, that news clippings appear and disappear, telling the dark secrets of this twisted place.
Although the theory itself is questionable, and most likely not true, there are also many other theories along this Yeah, Foxy is a good guy. Don't ask me how that made sense either. Still, theories have been the pillar of this franchise for a long, long time. Theories have actually been one of the main reasons that FNaF succeeded in the first place. The mystery of it all. That's what made it so appealing to the newly spawned crowd of theorists. Another theory that took the world by storm, and by far a greater example of what I'm talking about for this segment of the video, is Dream Theory, which actually had a much more interesting backstory because there was actual evidence for it. On December 13th, 2015, Map had uploaded one of his many game theory videos. However, one of those was a Five Nights at Freddy's theory, specifically one for Five Nights at Freddy's 4. It seemed to be just your casual, it's all a dream theory. Map had stated that FNaF 4 and the 3 games beforehand had been a nightmare in the crying child's mind. Yeah, pretty cliche, right? However, he started to make points that were actually credible, and the one that set the internet ablaze was this.
What if everything in FNaF was just a dream? That's right, a FNaF dream theory, that everything we play through in these games was created in the mind of the FNaF 4's crying child. It sounds like a cop-out, right? Like a lazy storytelling cliche. Maybe, but stay with me. Even if you think you've heard parts of this theory before, you'll want to stick around. I've unearthed the clues that finally put our year and a half of FNaF speculating to rest. Of the 3 clues Scott gave us that day, the most damning one was the last one. Why would Tiny Toy Chica be missing her beak? What? In the FNaF 4 minigame, you can talk to a small girl on the playground with toy versions of Bonnie, Freddy, and Chica, but her beak is missing? During the stream, we were all like, Scott, please. But when we looked, sure enough, there it was. A few orange pixels laying on the ground. What? Seriously? This was the crucial detail all of us had missed. And yet, for as absurd as it may sound, those 5 pixels changed everything, upending a year worth of theorizing. Because that missing beak directly parallels FNaF 2's new version of Chica, who loses her beak when she goes on the attack. It was something we all had written off as a graphical glitch or a design choice, not as a clue to the meaning of the entire series. And yet, here it was from the creator's mouth. And that is when it started to click.
And with all of that, connections began to be drawn between FNaF 4 and the other 3 games, also solving some actual smaller stuff. Even if red herrings within this video were fairly obvious, like FNaF 4's ending itself and such, the internet ate this up, especially with all the formidable clues behind it. So, was it true? The answer is actually still unclear. To this day, people are still split. Some people think it's an obvious no, but others think that MapHat was dead on. But Scott, not wanting the series to be solved so early, retconned it with the release of 2016's FNaF sister location. There is a lot of evidence for both sides, but to this day, the answer is still very much unclear no matter where people stand. I don't think we'll ever receive an answer to whether it was true or not. As you can probably see, the theory community talks a lot, and while definitely not as active as it was back in the day, especially with MapHat's March 2024 retirement, we love you game theory, it left a huge impact on FNaF and how it acts today. But unfortunately, no legacy is without the garbage, and that includes the FNaF fanbase, and considering this video is about the legacy, I suppose I should talk about it just to make sure the history is kept straight, yeah. Okay, I was originally going to cover absolutely everything, but along with the fact I don't want to rain on the positivity parade, there are certain territories I would rather not tread due to the sensitivity of him. But if you want to do research yourself into those, just look it up. That's about the most I can tell you. Before we start, I want to give a huge shout out to Visual Venture, who created a video of his own jumping into the dark side of the FNaF community, simply titled, Dark Side of the Five Nights at Freddy's community, which actually describes not only the basics, but the more serious stuff pretty well. And they also have some parts I wanted to include myself because it's great for a video like this, so huge shout out to them for inspiring some of the points I bring up here. Okay, on to the not so nice side of the fandom. The first and most problematic one in my case is the fandom's toxicity itself. While a lot of FNaF's community is pretty cool, as I mentioned earlier, a pretty good portion is not exactly the nicest. In fact, the fandom casually tears itself apart periodically, and unfortunately, it's caused the community itself to be very disliked among the general internet. And that's because of the fandom's what I like to call one you're done sentiment. This isn't just a Five Nights at Freddy's problem either. Usually on the internet, you have to tread carefully. If one thing is done wrong, even if it's extremely minor, you are usually excluded from the community, hence the once you're done statement. This is a huge problem, essentially on Twitter. While it's especially bad on the internet nowadays, it actually affected the real world in its earlier days.
Well, anybody with a business named Freddy's needs to beware. If your phone is already not ringing off the hook, it might start soon. CBS 2's Emily Smith explains.
At Freddy's Pizzeria in Long Branch, the phone seems to never stop ringing.
can I help you?
Is this Freddy Fazbear's Pizza?
No, this is not Freddy Fazbear. The calls are from people nationwide, mostly children, who want to know if they're calling Freddy's Fazbear Pizza, a place in an online video game called Five Nights at Freddy's. The player acts as a security guard being attacked by robotic animals. Countless YouTube videos show gamers calling phone numbers associated with the name Freddy, including this New Jersey pizzeria.
Hello?
The pizzeria gets about 100 prank phone calls a day, like this one. Hello? And when they answer the phone, they simply say hello instead of identifying it as Freddy's Pizzeria to try to deter callers.
Real customers, they are not able to get to get through.
So I know that someone had suggested, oh, why don't they just change their number? And it's not that easy.
Five Nights at Freddy's creator Scott Cawthon didn't return our phone calls or emails, but we did receive an automated response. Please do not call any phone numbers that you think may be associated with the game. There are no phone numbers associated with the game or marketing. All locations are fictional. While it's been an issue for the Jersey Shore restaurant, some find it as funny as prank calls.
Like the Jerky Boys, right?
For Freddy's, it means a loss of money and aggravation.
As customers, why would they want to call a place that is just a struggle to get to?
And it doesn't appear to have any end in sight. Emily Smith, CBS 2 News.
All right, wishing them some luck.
As you can tell, the original years were quite intense for any business with the name of Freddy, being flooded with numerous calls from young kids or perhaps even older fans. And the troubles don't stop there at all. Once the FNaF film released, apparently theaters had a huge outcry of fans disrupting people and even stealing merchandise, and apparently it was so bad, FNaF fans were considered worse than the Swifties. And you know, that's a huge insult to any fan base. Unfortunately, it does hold true with all the unfortunate circumstances, especially with the fandom periodically ripping itself to shreds on Twitter, with drama and overblown theories. The word parallel still sends shivers down my spine to this very day. But enough about the negative stuff, as while this fandom proves to be problematic at points, there's proof that, despite it all, it's still a good fandom to be in. A month before this video dropped, I asked Twitter and Discord to leave their comments on how FNaF changed their life, or at least impacted it in some way, showing that, even if it had some dark turns, Five Nights at Freddy's did have a good legacy. So, the rest of this video will be dedicated to showing these comments and showing just how dedicated this community is. Have a good one and happy 10th anniversary!